Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Newcastle United have officially placed a bid for Benjamin Šeško. Is this going to be enough to turn Sesko's head? And do United have a plan in place? Are they going to throw a bid at him? And we're going to officially enter a war. We've got news on Rasmus Hojlund as well, going out on loan potentially to Leipzig. And we also have Diego Leon's first official interview to discuss. Here alongside me, Mr. Singh, throughout all this wonderful news. I don't know, you're not going to call it wonderful news. It's not wonderful news. It's interesting at the least. But, yeah, has this caught you by surprise a little bit, Shreyas?
A little, but again, this transfer window and, this time period in itself has been quite eventful. You really don't know in which direction things are pulling. One day you wake up, it seems like, we are the only ones there for a certain player and, we are in pole position. The other day, it seems like, there are certain other players or there are certain other clubs who might be able to, swing this deal in a particular direction. Because even during Mbumo, we knew that, the player does favor us, but those links with Tottenham used to scare us a lot because they used to offer more money to Brentford, as whatever they claimed. So
Yeah.
I still think it will turn out in a positive way for United, but there is always this sort of anxiety for having these sort of players, and especially when you're competing against clubs who have Champions League football, it is in itself you're at quite a disadvantage.
Yeah, I agree. Let me read out the actual report from David Ornstein. Ben Jacobs put out a couple of things as well. So, Newcastle United submit offer to RB Leipzig for Benjamin Šeško. Newcastle United's bid made in the last 24 hours worth €75 million plus €5 million in add-ons, which is around the asking price. United pursuit ongoing. No decision yet from the 22-year-old Slovenian international striker. Ben Jacobs reported that Newcastle's tactics... Thank you very much. Love you lots. That Newcastle United's tactics has always been to get an agreement in place with RB Leipzig with the hope that United cannot or will not match it. And also Sesko has not yet decided on his next club, but this could come quickly amid Newcastle's bid. Is this basically, do you think, just going to hurry United's bid up? Because for me, I've always been under the impression and everything that we've heard that Sesko wants United, right?
Yeah, and I don't think that, what we've seen in the past few seasons, that in these scenarios United tend to overbid a lot by quite a margin. I think with Wivell being in charge and him having previous links to the Red Bull club, as well as knowing what kind of a player and what does Sesko actually demand, it puts it he knows how to work his way around these sort of transfers. And I think this deal could stretch into the season as well, that we play a first 2 games or 3 games of the season and then we see this deal actually commence, because we can't again be overpaying for players. And I understand to a point that you're putting yourself in a bit of a tough spot going into another season without a new striker, but if it means that you can still get the player for the right price, and in the meantime at least you've got sustainable enough options that can do a job for you quite convincingly and get you wins during that meantime, I think United can handle that sort of pressure. Because I think even if, we move into next season and Sesko is in by the time the third match day is there, I would still feel quite confident that United can put up competitive performances in the first 2 games.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the Mbumo situation. That's a really good point, actually, because obviously we had known for quite some time that Mbumo only wanted Manchester United, and that's the only reason why United was going to go for him, because these are kind of the things that they're putting in place now. They're only going to go for players who absolutely want to sign for Manchester United.
Yeah.
So when that Tottenham bid first came in, everyone was a little bit like, oh, it's a little bit worrying. I'm thinking, but at that time as well, I felt the exact same. I was like, well, he's chosen United. Obviously, Thomas Frank has gone to Spurs.
Exactly.
But, we had known for ages that he was like, United is my absolute priority. No other club. If it fails, then I'll look elsewhere or whatever, and then we can have a conversation. I think, to be honest with you, I think Sesko's the same. Every single journalist prior to this bid was talking about United being the front runners, and Sesko wants it. Like, everyone's been saying it. It's well known. My only sticking point with this is whether they've got the actual funds straight up to do it. So, obviously, Newcastle clearly have the money because they're just chucking a bid in there straight away. I don't know if United are trying to structure this in a way where it's like more like what we did with the Mbeumo and Cunha deal, basically, and if Leipzig are happy to do that. And also, you have the flip side of that as well, which we'll speak about in a minute, with Rasmus Hojlund potentially going out on loan, which for them would be beneficial because obviously they've got a striker leaving, then they've got a new one coming in who's got potential himself. So that kind of dynamic's interesting, but the Mbeumo thing, I think, absolutely spot on. Charlie Malman saying, I could not be happy if we missed out on Sesko. I do not rate this guy. Fair enough. Nave saying, Newcastle have made their move. Fair play to him. Let's see what United does. United knows the asking price. And why are you wearing a Madrid shirt? Mate, you can wear whatever shirt you want. I've got about 1 million shirts there. I've got Valencia shirts. As long as it's not a City shirt or a Liverpool shirt, then it's all good. It's all good, mate. Don't worry about it too much. So, yeah, this Rasmus stuff, Shreyas, I'll read out the thing. Leipzig are interested in Manchester United striker Rasmus Hojlund and have explored the conditions of a loan deal. But then, in your mind, would we need another striker to bring in? Or would you be happy with just Sesko?
I would be happy with just Sesko because we still got Xerxes at the club. And I think if you're going into a season with no European football and you've got just the Prem to look at, I think having 2 strikers is more than enough. And then again, you've got the options of Cunha or Mbeumo actually playing at striker as well, because you've got more than enough options in those 10s as well. Ahmad can play there, Bruno can play there, Mount can play there. So I think we're quite stacked in that department still. If you look at, the kind of options and permutations that we can work with, and we can still, let go of one player in that attack and still not have the need to sign another player to fill that void. Because Sesko is going to be coming in, and you've got Xerxes, at least you've got 2 very differing profiles that, if you bring someone, one of those guys on, they bring you something completely different. So I think it would be quite decent to have those sort of options. But then again, does the Hojlund deal actually materialize? Because hearing links and rumors is one thing and it actually happening is a separate thing. That is the only situation I think that United is actually even considering right now, that can we actually make the move happen or not?
Yeah, because everything we're hearing from Rasmus's side, whenever he spoke to any channels or journalists, is I want to fight for my place, I want to stay here. But at the same time, if you go on United spend £70 million on a striker and they're bringing him in, you would then be thinking, surely as a player, am I going to get enough game time? Are you happy to be a sub? Basically, that's what you're saying to him, which I don't mind that. I've said that before. Like, I don't rate him. I don't think Rasmus Hojlund is ever going to be an elite top-tier striker. Whereas I think with Benjamin Šeško, I think the fucking sky's the limit, in my opinion. I think he's got huge scale. So if he wants to be a bit part as a secondary player, I don't mind it. But if we have to make that sacrifice to say, okay, if you sweeten this deal with us for Sesko, and we give you Rasmus on loan to sweeten it, then I'm happy with that. Because like you said, I think you've got players who you've brought in as well. Cunha and Mbeumo, Premier League proven goal scorers. You've got enough there, I think, in my opinion, to kind of tinker with. So that whole dynamic's interesting. On Sesko actually as a player, because I don't think we've discussed it properly yet. I don't know. I might be completely wrong on that. But do you rate him as highly as some others? And how do you think that dynamic works with him up top?
I think the first time we even talked about this topic on Sesko was when Hojlund was being considered for that spot. It was Hojlund versus Sesko when we were in for both of them. And again, I think even then I rated him quite highly because, look, Sesko and Hojlund are completely different players. And on top of that, the thing is, Sesko is being linked with probably every single big club there is. Everyone actually sees the potential that there is. And again, if he's able to reach that potential, I have no doubt, what sort of a striker he can actually become. And you look at the way he plays, he's an absolute unit in the box. He's physically quite competent to, withstand the intensity of the Prem. And aerially, I think he's probably one of the best that you've got. Even his numbers are quite better than Gyökeres. Like, if you compare it, aerial duels wise and, winning headers, it is upside down. If you see Sesko and Gyökeres is not that great in the air.
It's crap in the air.
Yeah. So you got the likes of Sesko there who brings you a lot. And when you look at the way that we want to play this season, I think if we get in Sesko at the moment, instead of the other players that we were linked with, if you mentioned the likes of Watkins and everyone else, with Watkins, the only thing that I still it doesn't sit right with me is that he's 29.
Mm.
Within 2 years, we'll be in a same situation that, you're again looking for alternatives to come in and, take that position in for you. I want some sort of stability in that attack. You look
Yeah.
at Liverpool, they've had 2 or 3 players in that attack who never change. You might see, players like Nunez or Firmino or someone else, chopping and changing in there, but the core is same. So I would want, whoever is coming in, whether it's, Cunha, Mbumo, and Sesko it is, or Cunha, Mbumo, or Xerxes it is, I want them to stick around for at least 3 to 4 years and, be able to deliver constantly for us.
Charlie makes a great point there, saying Leipzig got cash issues. That's why why they're talking about a loan. This is why I'm saying it sweetens the deal for them.
Yeah.
Because not only with Newcastle, they're losing a striker and that's it. With United, it could be like, okay, if you pay a decent amount of money, 65 million, we'll let Sesko go to United.
And he'd work out there quite well.
I think he would. I think that kind of level, you've seen, for example, Timo Werner for Leipzig looked incredible. Like, all the best part. He goes to the Premier League, it just, you're like, what the fuck? It just happens with some players. The German league in itself is an interesting conversation. I've gone back and forth with people on this, like, loads of times. There's been loads of players that have done really well who've come from Germany. And there's been loads of players that have done really, really shit who's come from Germany. It's like any league. Like, sometimes it's a risk, sometimes it's not. I think Sesko will come into this side because you already have Mbumo and Cunha alongside him. I'm not that worried. I'm really not that worried. Like, them 3 coming together, you're talking about 50-odd goals last season.
Yeah.
That's more than all of our team combined. So I'm all right with that. Box is saying Sancho can replace Simmons and is Bundesliga respected. 50 plus, what? 50, 60 plus Sancho. We're not getting Simmons, if that's what you're going on about. That's not going to happen. Sancho would have to be RB's highest paid player. Yeah, exactly. It's just not going to happen. The question is, do RB want Sancho? What's this Leipzig and Sancho stuff? I don't know what's going on here. My Damn United's in the chat. Big up yourself. Leave a like on the video for us and subscribe if you are just joining us. Afternoon, guys. Hope you're both well. Greetings to all in the chat. Hope you're right on Sesko, Nick. I'm more in the Chivy camp, fearing a potential Rasmus 2.0. I get it. I understand it. And look, I will die on this hill. I've said it before. If he turns out to be an absolute flop, I will hold my hands up and I'll say, listen, I got it wrong. But from everything I've seen of him, the dynamic, how it could work, it reminds me a little bit, Shreyas, of early Haaland at Dortmund, the way he plays. Because he can play, he's that transitional threat, but also you can play it into him in the air as well. As you said, he's quite dominant in the air. And he's going to make those vertical runs, which will make spaces for Mbumo and Cunha in the half spaces as well, innit? So I think tactically it'd be a fit.
It would be, and I think, again, I understand why certain people have their reservations about making this move, but I think at a point, people even need to understand that every single transfer is a big gamble. You don't know which transfer is going to work. We still speak about, Liverpool having perhaps one of the perfect transfer windows, and they've genuinely signed quality players, but it could go wrong like this. Yes. Having the sort of signings that they've made, you look at Frimpong, you look at Wirtz, you look at other players that they brought in. It's not going to take long, or even I would say, it's not going to take much for them to not able to, emulate what they've done in the Bundesliga into the Prem. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, if they do work out, their numbers will be astronomical. So you put Sesko in the same conversation as well. You can put Ollie Watkins, for that matter, in the same conversation as well. Working out for Villa or working out for a club, I would say, you could say Brighton or some other club, doesn't mean that, you're going to smash it at United or some other club as well. So different clubs, different surroundings, different environments, different players and different managers that you've got to work with. There is a whole lot of things, and it brings about a whole lot of pressure for players on as well. I think Sesko for me right now is still the better choice because age is in his favor. And I think when you're moving young players, for that matter, from the Bundesliga, I wouldn't say it's not a risk, but at least, them being young gives you an added advantage that even if it doesn't work out, you're not in a position where they're nearing their 30s and you're still looking to offload them.
I absolutely agree. I think trust is a massive part of this. And the reason why I say that is because had this have been John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold, who was bringing in this player, there would be a lot more warning signs and sirens in my head going, I'm not too sure about this. But I look at the young players that Wilcox and Favela bringing in and the impacts that they've had. I mean, Aiden Heaven for £1 million. Obviously not as big of a gamble because he's a lot cheaper. He's £1 million, so it's kind of, if it don't work out, it's not the end of the world. He arguably right now was times his price by 10 easily. 10 million, 15 million quid. I look at Lenny Yoro, who's come in, incredible talent, really, really exciting. He was probably a risk before we signed him. And we
signed him from Ligue 1.
From Lille, wasn't it?
Lille, yeah.
Lille, yeah. Signing from Lille for 50 million. Everyone was like, that's quite a lot for a young centre-back. Came in, everyone's buzzing with him. Diego Leon, who we're going to speak about in a minute, who's just done an interview, looks quite exciting. Patrick Dorgu in pre-season has been incredible. 20
Money
million
well spent.
brought in. Do you know what I mean? So the actual scouting and recruitment now, I trust a lot more. And I've scouted you will know on this channel.
Yeah.
We spoke about Sesko for years, man. And we've also, what fills me with a bit more confidence, we've been scouting him since he was 15 years old.
Yeah.
So we know everything about him. Scout reports, data analysis, everything. So I have a lot more trust than if it was just, Murta and Arnold flying out there and saying, we've got a lot of followers on social media. Obo says the bid can only tempt Sesko. If his decision is to join United, it is unchangeable like Cunha and Mbumo. Yeah, fantastic point. Nath is saying, I'm more worried about the midfield. We really need this dynamic, athletic midfielder, or I think we might struggle this season. Did you see that quote from Romano last night that I put in the chat, Shreyas?
Yeah, I did.
About the midfielder.
About Paulinho.
Yeah, I don't know if that's real or not. So, let me find it. Let me get it.
I think it was that United haven't moved for Paulinho because he's too defensive-minded and they want someone who is just as good, moving forward as well.
I've got it here. So he said, I can give you one secret. At the beginning of the window, Manchester United considered the possibility of going for João Paulinho, but now he is joining Spurs along with a buy option. United decided to go for a different player, less holding defensive midfielder, still defensive, but with more intensity. Who do you think that could be? There was a couple of names that spring to mind. So obviously Edison is someone we've been linked with before. He's a little bit more athletic.
I think as time has passed, my heart has just shifted on from that deal.
Yeah, I get that. I think Aiden Hackney was another one as well. Was a name that was being mentioned. Hojlund, Sporting potentially. Oh, I don't know, man. They do need to sort out midfield, innit?
Yeah, and again, I have always been a big fan of Paulinho since again a Sporting player. And since he moved to Fulham, I think before he moved to Bayern, I said it a lot of times that if we sign him, then midfield could be quite decent. Yeah. And I still think that, Spurs have actually got themselves a really good deal because if you look at their midfield, it is right now quite balanced. Bergwall has been very, very promising for them. You look at Sarr, who's been quite promising for them. And, you're bringing along the likes of Paulinho, who's very, very experienced. I think that midfield is quite competent moving into next season for Thomas Frank. And at United, I would have really liked him. But again, I think Paulinho is much more closer to the likes of Ugarte if you look at the way he plays. So maybe that could be one of the reasons why they've not really, moved in for that sort of a deal. And we do need a ball carrier in this team. And we need someone who knows how to distribute the ball around. And look, Ugarte has looked quite decent in pre-season, no doubt about it. Kobe Mainoo has looked incredible during pre-season, no doubt about it. But to do it in the Premier League on a consistent basis is something completely different. Yeah. So at least, by signing another midfielder, you're giving yourself an option that if, things are not clicking about, you can bring another profile in who might facilitate, that midfield problem that we've got.
And it always falls back to this is why I wish we got Frenkie de Jong. All those years ago. All those years ago, we should have got Frenkie de Jong. Do you know why? Because his work rate off the ball, incredible. On the ball, he is fucking phenomenal. We wouldn't have as much of a problem if we had Frenkie de Jong in that midfield right now. I'm telling you. Obviously, he wanted to stay at Barcelona, and there's financial stuff. I get it, but he was the guy, man. He was the guy. That boat has obviously sailed now, and it's hard to deal with. But you look at our midfield at the minute, and it's man, what I'd do for Frenkie de Jong in there at the minute, or just I'll get a couple of him, even McAllister, chuck a McAllister in there and a Frenkie de Jong. And it is a different world with the way we play. Completely different. The midfield is the heart and soul of your team. It's the engine room.
Can you imagine we signed Caicedo for 5 million at that point and managed to get Frenkie de Jong in as well? Caicedo and de Jong in one midfield.
Yeah, I was speaking to, when I did the preview with Alex, who, by the way, Everton preview is out tonight around 8 o'clock. Alex, the Everton fan who's been on the channel before, it's about literally an hour and 8 minutes of just pure football and talking about both teams and where we've been at. And the similarities as well, to be fair, because they finished higher than us last season. And they've got David Moyes. They're in the same kind of pool of us in some series in pre-season. So it's a very interesting interview. Please do look out for that. I forgot what I was saying. Why have I just mentioned that? I was going to expand onto a point, and now my brain's just gone completely blank. What was we talking about? You can't remember either, can you? No. Memory's just completely gone. Someone will remind me in the chat. I'll go to the chat and I'll read out some comments. For me, if we spend 40 on Watkins... Oh, shit. The chat's just thinking. 1 second. For me, if we spend 40 on Watkins, give him a 3-year deal, we get nothing back, but we will 100% have goals. If we sign Sesko, he may not perform. We sell him on for a 30 mil loss. It roughly works out as the same. Nave saying, take a look at the best strikers in the world and their stats. Sesko's on target to reach a huge potential like Zlatan and Lewandowski. People going back and forth about his record and they're not convinced. Aiden Hackney's mint, but it's a huge step up. And Boomer will feature, I hope, with Cunha. Yeah, we'll read that news out shortly. We could kind of pivot to
Diego spoke about Caicedo and De Jong. We were speaking about...
Yeah. Your brain's working there. Thank God someone is. I was just going to say, the amount of deals that we've had, I was speaking to Alex about this, where we could have triggered it for like 2 to 10 million. Erling Haaland, Caicedo, Sesko himself, we could have got for 2 million. And we said it was too expensive. Alvarez. There's loads. There's way too many. So, yeah. Right. Diego Leon has done an interview. He says, as everyone knows, Manchester's one of the biggest clubs in the world, and you have to give absolutely everything every day. On his first assist for United as well, he says, yes, of course, I enjoyed it. It was a nice match yesterday, and as you said, my first assist. But the actual assist itself, does that count as an assist? Because he looked like he just fell over, didn't he? And then someone picked up the pieces. That's the way I remember.
I put it in the chat as well, that just look at that goal, how it actually comes through. And the thing is, he was not in control, but he's honestly built like such a unit that he took down 2 players alongside him while he was falling down. So I think moving on next season, physicality is something that we genuinely won't be worried about on that left flank, because Dorgu is, I think, I'm really impressed, with the way his athleticism has actually come about with Dorgu. But with Leon as well, I think the ceiling is quite high because he's got the physicality. If he can match up with the ball playing ability alongside it, he's not going to be easy to stop because he's rapid on the ball and he's got the physicality. So for any player, it's going to be quite tough for them to handle someone as relentless as him for the entire 90 minutes, just bombing down that left flank every single time he's on the ball. Not going to be easy. So I think when it comes to the wing back situation, at the moment we're quite good because Dorgu looks quite promising. Leon is I think very competent backup. You've got Ahmad who can play on that right hand side, and I think Ahmad and Mbeumo on that right hand side. I'm really waiting to see both of them start again.
Yeah, well, again, we'll talk about Mbeumo shortly because he's going to make his debut against Everton tomorrow night, so we will officially see that. But on Leon, I've been pleasantly surprised, to be honest with you, because there was a lot of conversation, wasn't there, prior to him coming in, like, is he probably going to go out on loan? They didn't even know if they wanted to give him a shirt number or not, is what Laurie Whitwell was saying when I was listening to him yesterday. So they was really unsure, but since he's come in, I mean, the way Amrin's speaking about him as well, saying that, this kid's come from the Paraguayan league and he's managing it. He don't look out of place, does he?
Not at all. And it's good to have, players with confidence coming into this team. That, I don't want to go out on loan, and that's not my, approach. I want to be a part of this first team. I want to, start playing games for United as is. And you need to have that sort of, fire and that sort of competitiveness to, be a starter in this team, because that's how you make yourself better and the players around you better. Competition for places is something we've not had at United for the past 2 to 3 years. Yeah. So if you can have that, it makes, other players around you actually, quite competitive about their positions as well. And then you see consistent performances from players coming about whenever they do, end up getting the opportunities. And I remember we signed Alex Telles just to, get Luke Shaw working. So if, we can have that sort of combination on the left flank again, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
No, spot on. He goes on to say, as you can see, we're doing very well. We're very focused on everything the coach says. We're all with a lot of intensity, and that's good for the team. I talk with almost all of the players, and they advise me both on the pitch and personally. And the coaches are also teaching me a lot of things to be able to better to polish my game. Thing is with him, you think about like he's come over from Paraguay, left all his family, gone to the biggest club in the world. Like, that is a massive transformation. So I just think any kind of criticism or people moaning about his performances, which hasn't happened yet, I'm not saying it, but just let the kid settle in. You know what I mean? Like, just let him do what he's got to do, and we'll assess it in a year's time or whatever. But I've liked the start so far. I think he's looked decent, and he's spoke about Amarin as well, saying he's teaching me a lot of things so I can improve my game. And as we know, Amarin works with, he's good with young players. You saw like the development that he did with players like Gyökeres and João Paulinho, who was just talking about, Nuno Mendes. The fucking list is endless. So yeah, let's before my throat completely runs out, let's talk about Bryan Mbeumo. He's officially going to make his Manchester United debut against Everton tomorrow. That's from Chris Wheeler. And Ruben Amorim spoken on Bryan Mbeumo. He said he's going to play versus Everton. I'm really excited to see him playing and what he can give to our team. For a coach to say that, he must be licking his lips in training, seeing this kind of link up with Bruno, Cunha and Mbeumo. How do you think it's going to get on, Shreyas and Mbeumo?
I expect big things from him. Again, I think it's... when it comes to creating chances and seeing goals, I think that is a problem that we've addressed quite decent, in a quite decent way in this transfer window, because you've got practically, 40 goals from 2 players into this team now. And they're looking, I don't know how it works with Mbeumo, but Cunha and Bruno look quite good together on the pitch. When you look at the press, when you look at off the ball movement, and when you look at their positioning when they're on the ball and in and around the box.
Cunha especially. I think.
And having that sort of intent that usually players keep it quite safe. They keep it quite simple. That if you see 1 to 2 players around you, pass it backwards, wait for a better opportunity, and just pass it around. But Cunha just rams into players, whether it's 2 players, 3 players, 4 players. He doesn't really care as much. And if you had that, have that sort of aggressiveness on the right hand side as well, with the with the likes of Mbeumo, it's only going to make life tougher for the opposition. And both of them are quite blessed with pace. Both of them, are quite decisive in the final third, which is something this team desperately needed. So, how will Bruno fit in? How will Mount fit in? And how, will the striker fit in? Whoever is the striker is, again, those are the question marks. But besides that, I think you can expect a big season out of both of these guys.
Does it make you more excited for the season?
It does. And it's been a while that, any United fan has felt any sort of optimism moving on from pre-season.
Yeah.
Last year as well, during pre-season, yes, I think in the latter stages, we managed to pick up a couple of wins. We were raving about Ahmad, but we saw the glaring problem signs in the team still, that the midfield is being overrun, midfield spaces are being left behind. And it has been the same case every single year. So now to see whole complete 90-minute performances where United is dominating for the majority, like 70 to 75 minutes. And at the same hand, every single game we are saying, we probably could have scored more. We probably could have scored more. It brings you a lot of confidence, especially, when you know that your first game is going to be against Arsenal at Old Trafford. If you move into that game with this sort of momentum and confidence, I think we can actually give them a very good fight.
One of the biggest things I've taken away from pre-season, and I've kind of made notes of, is both sides. So, I don't know, you can include the right centre-back, the wing-back, and then the right 10 as well. Those kind of triangles between the players. So, for example, Yoro, Ahmad, and say Mount there for now. But then obviously Mbeumo's going to go into that. You flip it over to the other side as well. Dorgu, Cunha, Shaw. That fluidity and how they can manage space between them. That's one of the biggest things I've taken away. Cunha coming into that setup there is so integral to the system and how we play. Because I was watching back a couple of the goals that we scored or chances that we created. And a lot of it comes in from him dropping in that kind of, I don't even know what you call it. It's like a hybrid position between like a wing back and a midfield. It's just like a weird area of the pitch.
Yeah.
He did the same thing at City, didn't he? Where he picked it up and then took it past 3 or 4 players. Like he drops deep, which then Dorgu really exploits.
It's a very narrow space. If you look at it, it's a very narrow channel, but you want players to operate in that area, and that is where Garnacho actually struggled, because he used to take the ball out wide. The wing back used to be out wide as well. So
and
there
Dorgu would end up drifting inside.
Exactly.
That was the issue with it. So that's the thing, that the fluidity between those three. I think like Yoro, because how comfortable he is on the ball. Luke Shaw's obviously comfortable on the ball. Lisandro Martinez, when he comes into it, is as well. They're the biggest difference, and I think attacking-wise, it helps so much. And this is why I'm saying with Sesko, to kind of come full circle on the show, having him there, he's a physical, imposing player. He's 6'5", he's rapid, he bullies centre-backs. If you're a centre-back and you're having to deal with him constantly, making those runs into channels and stuff, you almost naturally end up forgetting about Cunha and
Bruno.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So
and
that's
then
why
you put Bruno in behind them to look out for as well, because he likes to make late runs into the box too.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's honestly, I think it's really, really exciting. But look, we're not there yet. Newcastle have placed a bid, but I think we're both, me and Shreyas, we're not too concerned with it. I still think United will get this deal done. Watch the news as soon as we go off the show break that Newcastle signed Sesko. But I'm genuinely not worried about it at all. And I get there are some people in the chat who would have rather have gone for Watkins, and you all have your absolute valid reasons. But either way, if we get a striker in, I'm happy and excited to see Mbeumo tomorrow as well. So yeah, please do guys check out the United versus Everton preview tonight. I'm gonna let you know it is an hour long, but it's worth it. There's so much stuff involved in it. Speaking about Everton and Man United, the Premier League in general, the summer series. We do some interactive stuff towards the end. Yeah, it's worth the show. So check it out when it drops around 7, 8 o'clock tonight. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, people. Appreciate you coming on, Shreyas. And we will chat to you guys in the next one, yeah? See you later, everyone. Legend.